Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 battle report brought to you by the Legion Wargaming. As the Tau Empire expands rapidly through this sector, they are dispatching highly mobile vanguard forces to seize key Manufactorum installations on this world. One such force, led by the famed Darkstrider, has been tasked by the Ethereal Council with seizing Manufactorum 18 Epsilon. The Imperial Command, determined to hold these key facilities, have called upon the Raven Guard chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. Surely they can overcome the Tau in this global campaign of speed and surprise. The battle today is 1,850 points, as mobile strike forces from both sides of this conflict clash over this vital installation. The scenario is the Emperor's will, with hammer and anvil deployment. Let's take a look at the armies. This 1,850 point Tau army is battle forged and is a single combined arms detachment. The Tau are not bringing along a hunter contingent today. They want to bring along some of their more exotic toys that you can't pick as part of a hunter contingent. So this combined arms detachment has two HQ choices. The first is a commander. He is piloting an Iridium battlesuit. He has a multi-spectrum sensor suite, command and control node, and the PureTide engram neurochip. He has also brought along two shield drones, and the other HQ choice is Darkstrider. There are three troops choices in this detachment. The first is a squad of 12 fire warriors. They are a strike team, and they have a Shizui with two gun drones, and they will be joined by Darkstrider himself. There are two other strike teams, each of 10 fire warriors. They are both mounted in Devilfish with smart missile systems. This detachment has two elite choices. The first is a squad of 6 XV-25 stealth suits. They have two fusion blasters and a Shizui with a homing beacon. And the second elite choice is a team of 3 XV-8 crisis suits. They each have 2 plasma rifles and a fusion blaster. The Tau have brought along some of their slightly more unusual units in their fast attack slots, including a squadron of 4 Tetras with their high intensity marker lights and their homing beacons, and a Barracuda air superiority fighter. And the final fast attack choice is a team of 6 Pathfinders, and they have brought a recon drone along with them. And the final units in this detachment are 2 heavy support choices, which are 2 Hammerhead gunships. They both have ion cannon and smart missile systems. This force represents a highly mobile Tau cadre. They are the vanguard, and they are tasked with seizing the Manufactorum. Let's see what the Raven Guard Space Marines have brought along to stop them. This 1,850 point Raven Guard list is battle forged. It is a single combined arms detachment, and it is led by a captain on a bike. He has a relic blade and the Raven Guard relic, the Armour of Shadows. Since he's on a bike, he can bring bike squads as troop choices in this detachment, and he has brought 3. The first is a squad of 3 bikers. The sergeant has a combi grav and the 2 bikers have grav guns. The second bike squad has an attack bike added. The attack bike has a multi-melter, and 2 of these bikers have melter guns. And the third bike squad consists of 5 unupgraded bikers. There are 2 more troop choices in this detachment. The first is a squad of 5 scouts with sniper rifles and camo cloaks, and the second is a squad of 5 scouts. They have sniper rifles and camo cloaks. They are led by a veteran sergeant, and he is wielding the Raven Guard relic sniper rifle known as Nihilus. There are 3 elite choices in this combined arms detachment. The first is a squad of 5 Vanguard veterans. They have jump packs. 3 of them have twin lightning claws, and 2, including the sergeant, have power fists and storm shields, and they are led by this detachment's second HQ choice, a chaplain with a jump pack. The second elite choice is an ironclad dreadnought with 2 heavy flamers, and the third elite choice is a squad of 7 stern guard. 5 of them have combi melters, and the sergeant also has a power sword, and these elite choices will enter the battle riding in the detachment's two heavy support choices, which are two Storm Raven gunships. Both have twin-link multi-melters and twin-link las cannon, as well as their missiles. And to round off this detachment, there are three fast attack choices, each consisting of a single land speeder. All of these land speeders have heavy flamers and multi-melters. This is a highly mobile force. These are the kinds of detachments that the Raven Guard on this world are sending to outmaneuver and hunt down the Tau forces. Let's see if they can do it. Moving into deployment. And the armies have deployed, with the Tau deploying first and leaving their two hammerheads currently outside the Manufactorum complex to give long range support with their ion cannon. To their front we have two Devilfish containing strike teams. They are just entering the outskirts of the base. Meanwhile, Darkstrider has scouted with his squad of fire warriors. They are already holding one objective, and the Pathfinders have scouted forward into this building, marking the edge of this side of the Manufactorum complex. Meanwhile, outstripping their comrades for speed, the Tetras have scouted. They have zoomed past these buildings. They are well into the Manufactorum complex. Meanwhile, as the Tau move forward, their presence is reported by two infiltrating squads of Raven Guard scouts. They have already taken up fire positions in buildings. They have watched the Tau come up in their transport vehicles, and they have called for support, and the support has arrived in the form of a wave of Raven Guard bikers. The captain, right in the centre, he is leading a squad of 5 bikers, and to his right we have a squad, 3 bikes and an attack bike. They have melters, and on the far right flank another squad of 3 bikes. They have 2 grav guns and a combi grav. But that is all the Raven Guard have deployed. The bikers are the first wave of support that the scouts have called in. The Raven Guard, they have their elites in reserve in the Storm Ravens, and they have also elected to deep strike with all 3 of their independent land speeders. The objectives in this scenario, we decided to make it a scenario rule that they must be placed within 12 inches of the centre point of the table, just to represent the fact that both sides are attempting to gain control of this complex. The Tau have also left a lot in reserve. They have their Barracuda air superiority fighter, and their commander, he is leading an XV8 crisis team. He will be deep striking, and so will the XV25 stealth suit. So this will be a battle of feints and ploys as both sides call in their reserves. Who will call them in with the most tactical acumen? That person will surely gain the advantage in this scenario. The Tau deployed first, so unless the Raven Guard can seize the initiative, we will be going into Tau Empire turn 1. And with the Raven Guard failing to seize the initiative, the Tau have commenced moving into the base with their 2 Devilfish, with the strike teams embarked. They have both moved forward 6 inches. They're going to try some shots with their smart missile systems. The Tau are hunting for first blood. They know the Ravens are tricky to target in the first turn thanks to their chapter tactics, but they have the Pathfinders, who have remained stationary with their marker lights, and the Tetras. They have just shifted over behind these barricades. They have high intensity marker lights, so there could be a lot of ignores cover. Darkstrider and his squad, they are happy on this objective. They are going to give fire, and one hammerhead has remained stationary. It already has a good field of fire. The other has moved up through the trees to create a line of sight to the Raven Guard bikers. The Raven Guard, they are going to have to survive a couple of turns of Tau firepower before their reserves can hope to arrive. Let's see if the Tau's opening volley is going to make that possible. or impossible for the Space Marines. Going into Tau shooting phase, turn 1. End of Tau shooting phase, turn 1, and the phase opened with the Tetras managing to get 3 Markerite hits on the central squad of Raven Guard bikers with melters. The Hammerhead took full advantage of that, and with an overcharged shot from its ion cannon managed to incinerate both the Sergeant and the multi-melter carrying attack bike. But there was no further damage done to the Raven Guard right flank. The damage was done to the scouts in the centre. The Pathfinders, they managed 4 Markerite hits on the central squad of scouts. Like the other tank, this Hammerhead then took full advantage of them and took out 3 of the scouts with a blast from its overcharged ion cannon. The last 2 scouts could not stand up to the hail of smart missiles launched by the advancing Devilfish. That earns the Tau first blood, and also that is the death of the veteran sergeant carrying Nihilus, which is disappointing for the Ravens. But that did leave Darkstrider and his squad with no Markerite support. They only managed to take out 1 scout from the far squad with a volley from their pulse rifles. So it could have been much worse for the Ravens, but the Tau have managed to earn first blood. That brings Tau turn 1 to a close. Let's see how the Ravens respond going into Raven Guard turn 1. End of Raven Guard movement phase turn 1, and with not much in the way of units on the table, it was a brief one for the Ravens. The Grav Bikers, they have moved up. It looks like the Tetras may have overextended themselves somewhat, so they can expect a volley of Grav fire and a charge, and the 2 remaining Melter Bikers are thinking exactly the same. All the Ravens managed to negotiate their way through the terrain without any damage. In the centre, the captain has led his squad of 5 bikers up. They are intending to use these walls for cover and take advantage of the captain's armour of shadows, and they're going to try some long range bolter fire against Darkstrider and his squad, combined with the sniper fire from the 4 remaining scouts. But it seems there are very few Space Marines on the table and a lot of Tau. They need a bit of luck in these opening turns. Let's see if they get it going into Raven Guard shooting phase turn 1. End of Raven Guard shooting phase turn 1, and the luck that the Ravens needed did not materialise. The 2 Melter Bikers, they fired at the Tetras with no effect, and the Grav Bikers also did no damage, and the Sergeant has burnt his Combi Grav as well. That was a very disappointing piece of firing from the Space Marines. In the centre, the captain and his bikers, they managed to shoot down 1 of the gun drones accompanying Darkstrider and his strike squad, but despite getting 4 hits, the snipers could not take down any more Tau. So that whole phase, the Ravens only managed to take down a single drone. Very disappointing. Let's see if these bikers can make up for that performance by launching an assault against the Tetras in Raven Guard assault phase turn 1. End of Raven Guard assault phase turn 1, and these bikes performed marginally better in the assault phase. They both made their charges, took no damage from Overwatch, and managed to take out 1 of the Tetras through weight of attacks. That brings Raven Guard turn 1 to a close, but 1 Tetra and 1 gun drone, that is not much damage. Let's see if the Tau can summon their reserves going into Tau turn 2. Start of Tau turn 2, and it looks like the Tau have masterfully lured the Ravens into a trap. The commander and his XV8 crisis team, they have been guided in by the homing beacons on the Tetras, and they are looking to destroy every Raven Guard biker on this flank. And in the ruins to the rear of the Space Marine position, the XV-25 stealth suits have arrived, and they have their weaponry pointed at the captain and his squad of bikers. Small mercies for the Space Marines. At least the Barracuda has not turned up yet, but this is looking to be a very tricky battle for the Ravens going into Tau movement phase turn 2. End of Tau movement phase, turn 2, and with the arrival of their battle suits, it looks like the Tau think this is the time to spring their trap. They are famed for their tactical coordination, and things are looking grim for the Ravens. The Tetras have disengaged from the bikers, and they are going to try to light up the captain and his squad, and it looks like he is going to be taking fire from all over the battlefield. From the XV25s, from Dark Strider, and the 2 stationary hammerheads, they can both draw line of sight as well. If the Tetras can get a couple of marker light hits for Ignore's cover, things are looking very grim for him. And in the centre, the Devilfish have moved up another 6 inches, and they have deployed their strike teams. This squad to add their fire against the bikers on the Raven Guard right flank. Between them and the newly arrived commander and his crisis team, it's very possible these bikers are going to be annihilated, and the other squad, they're going to join Dark Strider in some long range pulse fire against the captain. There are a huge number of Tau units now in relation to the Raven Guard. Could we see the Ravens wiped from this industrial complex? Let's see, going into Tau shooting phase, turn 2. End of Tau shooting phase, turn 2, and it would be safe to say that the attack of the Raven Guard bikers has been decisively annihilated. The commander fired up his command and control node and his multi-spectrum sensor suite, and his XV8s did the rest. They easily destroyed the Grav bikers, and a volley from the newly deployed Fire Warriors took out the 2 remaining Melter bikers. Meanwhile, the captain, he is no more. He tried to use his 2+ armour save to tank too many pulse shots, and he went down, and fire from the XV25s and the newly deployed strike team, along with the hammerheads, took out all but 1 biker, and to his shame he has failed his morale check and began to fall back. So the only forces available to the Ravens after that phase are 1 biker, at least he has, and they shall know no fear, and 4 scouts who have been treated to the spectacle of their bikers being destroyed with contemptuous ease by the Tau ambush. The Tau are definitely having the best of this battle so far. Let's see where their jetpackers move off to in Tau assault phase, turn 2. End of Tau assault phase, turn 2, and the battle suits have begun to close in on the other side of the complex. The Tau, they are dominating this industrial installation at the moment. The commander is leading his XV8s from this direction, and the XV25s, they are coming in from where the Raven Guard should be. The Tau already have First Blood and Slay the Warlord. The Ravens hardly have anything on the table. They need their reserves to turn up. Going into Raven Guard, turn 2. Start of Raven Guard turn 2, and the reserve rolls started very disappointingly, as only one of the 3 land speeders turned up and scattered. He wanted to target this hammerhead from the rear, but with a huge scatter. He has come down in the woods. He is going to have to try to tackle this one with his multi-melter, but good news for the forces of the Emperor. Both Storm Ravens have arrived, one carrying the Chaplain, the Vanguard and the Ironclad Dreadnought, and the other carrying the Stern Guard. They are going to perform, hopefully, a devastating strafing run on the commander to try to eliminate this very dangerous Tau unit. Meanwhile, the only other units remain 1 biker and the 4 scouts. Let's see what the Ravens can do with their newly arrived assets going into Raven Guard movement phase, turn 2. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 2, and it was incredibly brief as the lone biker rallied, and he is moving to engage the XV25s before they can close in on this objective. That was the only movement, as most of the Raven Guard army has arrived by Deep Strike, and the scouts, although their fire has so far been completely ineffective, they are going to try again with their sniper rifles. Going into Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 2. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 2, and the disappointment for the Space Marines looks set to continue as the newly arrived land speeder missed the hammerhead with its multi-melter. The 4 scouts, they fired again at Dark Strider and his squad but did no damage, and the last remaining biker got 2 wounds on the stealth suits, but unsurprisingly their stealth technology protected them, so no casualties until the Storm Ravens opened fire and performed much better. The commander and his squad are fleeing. They have lost 2 crisis suits and a shield drone. They did not deploy themselves very well here. They wanted the commander to tank, but the Storm Ravens came in from behind. They took out 2 XV8s and 1 shield drone before they reached the commander. He is nevertheless wounded once as well, but he rolled an 11 for his morale check, and the sudden arrival of the Space Marine aircraft has unnerved him. He, 1 XV8 suit and 1 shield drone are now falling back, so that is a good result for the Raven Guard. Is it enough? We shall see. We have 1 assault as the biker attempts to do something in this battle, as he attempts to assault the XV-25 stealth suits in Raven Guard assault phase, turn 2. In the Raven Guard assault phase, turn 2, and the biker, he motored his way through a hail of pulse fire, ricocheting off his armour, but unfortunately one of the members of this stealth team was very accurate with his fusion blaster and melted the Raven Guard Space Marine before he could complete his charge. So another disappointing phase for the Ravens. They are struggling in this battle, but at least their elite forces have arrived. Let's see how the Tau deal with these Storm Ravens going into Tau Empire, turn 3. Start of Tau turn 3, and the impression that the Tau have set this whole battle up as an ambush continues as the Barracuda has come zooming on to the battlefield, where the Tau just waiting for the Raven Guard aircraft to show themselves before unleashing their interceptor. It's possible. Let's see what the Tau ground forces do in Tau turn 3 movement phase. End of Tau movement phase, turn 3, and good news, their commander and the last surviving XV8 suit have rallied. They have just moved 3 inches into cover, and the rest of the Tau army have been ordered by Dark Strider to shoot down these Imperial aircraft. They're hoping that the Barracuda can deal with one, and if they can light up the other with the Tetras marker lights and the Pathfinder's marker lights, then long range fire from the hammerheads may be able to take the Storm Ravens down. Meanwhile, the stealth suits, they've spun around. They have 2 fusion blasters. They're going to try to add their fire against the Storm Ravens, and the 2 objective secured Devilfish, they have moved at cruising speed. They are surrounding this objective. The Tau now hold both, and their strike teams that deployed from the Devilfish, they are advancing through the industrial complex. Dark Strider, he remains happy holding this objective, and he and possibly this advancing squad are going to try to finish off the Raven Guard scouts, who are treated to an excellent view of the Barracuda performing aerial manoeuvres as it moves past the buildings of the Manufactorum. This could be very bad for the Ravens if the Storm Ravens go down. Let's see, going into Tau shooting phase, turn 3. End of Tau shooting phase, turn 3, and the highly skilled Raven Guard pilots have done very well. The Tetras failed to land a single marker light on either Storm Raven, and so did the Pathfinder. So with no marker lights helping them out, the hammerheads desperately opened fire but failed to get any hits with their ion cannon. The Barracuda managed a single hit on the nearest Storm Raven with its ion cannon, and another with its missile pod. Managed to get 1 penetrating hit despite the Raven Guard pilot jinking, but all it has managed to do is take out 1 of the missiles on the Imperial aircraft's wing. The XV-25s, they missed with their fusion blasters, so the Storm Ravens, they really have got out of this quite well. The advancing Fire Warrior squad in the centre, they turn back and open fire on the land speeder. It didn't jink, but they only managed to get a single glancing hit. That was not very good rolling from the Tau there, but much better from Dark Strider and his strike team, and the strike team advancing through the compound. They washed the remaining Raven Guard scouts out of the far building with a huge volley of pulse fire. But that is a disappointing turn for the Tau. They are holding both objectives. They have First Blood, they have Slay the Warlord, so they're still in a commanding position. But that was a lot of firepower for very, very little effect. Let's see where the jetpackers move off to in Tau Assault Phase Turn 3. End of Tau Assault Phase Turn 3, and their tactical information tells them that when this type of Imperial aircraft is seen, usually that means the approach of some deadly close assault troops, and for that reason the stealth suits have jetpacked over. They are trying to draw the Ravens away from the objectives in the complex itself, and that brings Tau Turn 3 to a close. The Ravens have 2 more land speeders in reserve. Let's see if they arrive going into Raven Guard Turn 3. Start of Raven Guard Turn 3, and the Space Marines were relieved when both of their remaining land speeders arrived from reserves, and they have performed some very brave deep strikes. This land speeder was particularly brave, deep striking between all of these Tau units to use its heavy flamer, but was rewarded with a pinpoint descent. This land speeder was not quite so accurate. He wanted to be closer to these Fire Warriors to use his heavy flame, but he scattered back, just avoiding a mishap. But the Ravens now have all of their forces, including the deadly First Company, embarked in the Storm Ravens. Let's see what they do in Raven Guard Movement Phase Turn 3. End of Raven Guard Movement Phase Turn 3, and the assault has begun. Both Storm Ravens dropped into hover mode, and this Storm Raven disgorged its cargo of Stern Guard. They are looking to take out all of the Tetras. They have combi melters. They may assault as well. This Storm Raven, it has disgorged the Chaplain and the Vanguard, and they want to wreak a bloody revenge on the XV-25 stealth suits and the colossal form of the Raven Guard Ironclad Dreadnought. He has only one thought in his mind, and that is to pulverise the flimsy alien vehicles that are on this objective. The Storm Ravens themselves, they both jink, so they will be firing snapshots, but they're going to add their firepower to the centre of the battlefield, and the Ravens are relying on their land speeder attack to deal with the Tau back line. The land speeder that arrived last turn has moved behind this hammerhead, hoping for more accuracy with its multi-melter, and the Tau Fire Warriors advancing through the compound. They are in for a very bad time, as this land speeder has a heavy flamer with a perfect shot lined up, and this land speeder is going to wash its heavy flamer over the other strike team as well. The Raven Guard, they have really taken a hammering the first 2 turns or 3 turns of this game from the Tau firepower. It is now time to wreak some revenge. Going into Raven Guard Shooting Phase Turn 3. End of Raven Guard Shooting Phase Turn 3, and more disappointment from this land speeder as it once again missed with its multi-melter, and its heavy flamer also did no damage. This land speeder managed to take out 3 Fire Warriors with a gout of flame from its heavy flamer, but its multi-melter hit and rolled a 1 to wound, and this land speeder managed to take out 4 of this strike team, advancing through the compound. But that could have been much worse for the Tau, so a sigh of relief from the Tau backline, and another sigh of relief from the commander and his remaining XV8 suit, as although the Storm Ravens managed to get 3 hits, las cannon and multi-melter and a missile, the commander and his crisis suit managed to make all of their cover saves. So disappointing there. In desperation, the Stern Guard unleashed their combi melters and were rewarded as one of the Tetras exploded. That was a disappointing phase for the Ravens, but they are expecting the next phase to be much, much more effective. Raven Guard Assault Phase, turn 3. End of Raven Guard Assault Phase, turn 3, and that was a much better phase. The Stern Guard, they managed to make it into the Tetris and drag one down. So 3 Tetras are down, there's 1 left. Still not too bad a result. Not as good as the Chaplain and the Vanguard. They absolutely ploughed into the XV-25 Stealth team. They did lose 1 brother with a Power Fist and Storm Shield to one of the fusion guns on Overwatch, but in return Hammer of Wrath took out half of the Tau battle suits, and the Lightning Claws, the Chaplain's Crozius, are easily finished off the rest. They have consolidated. They are being very cagey. They have hidden themselves from the Tau gun line behind this central building. They are waiting to see where they can move to have the most effect. And in the centre, the Ironclad stomped straight into one of the Devilfish, hitting with 5 of its attacks. The Tau tank stood no chance and was blown to pieces. To the Ravens, they are clawing it back gradually. The Tau, they still have the advantage. They're still holding both objectives, but now both armies are fully deployed. This is going to become a battle to the death. Let's see what the Tau do. Going into Tau, turn 4. End of Tau movement phase, turn 4, and the Barracuda has zoomed in low. Still has its sights fixed on this Storm Raven. Going to try to shoot it down this turn where it failed in the previous turn. The last Tetra, it jinked, but it has moved over here. It's going to try to put some marker light hits onto the Stern Guard, who will be targeted by the Fire Warrior squad that have moved up to occupy the gantry. Meanwhile, the commander, he is hoping that his sensor suite and his control node and his pure-tide engram neurochip will be enough for the fusion blaster on his last XV8 bodyguard suit to take out the formidable form of the Raven Guard Ironclad. Meanwhile, the other strike team in the centre, they're moving up. They are going to try to shoot down the land speeder with their pulse rifles. They may be supported by Darkstrider and his squad, who are still holding this objective. And in the backfield, the Hammerheads have decided it is time for the rest of the land speeders to also be shot down. They are going to be targeting them to clear the Space Marines from their side of the table. The Pathfinders, they may well add their marker lights onto the Stern Guard, or possibly onto one of the Raven Guard flyers. It does seem that the Tau have plenty of firepower to deal with all these threats. Let's see how they get on. Going into Tau shooting phase, turn 4. End of Tau shooting phase, turn 4, and the Tau easily dealt with the land speeders buzzing around in their lines. This Hammerhead targeted the Space Marine skimmer that was harassing its sister tank and easily took it down with a volley of smart missiles that left this tank free to absolutely annihilate the land speeder in front of it, despite its jinking. And a volley from Darkstrider's squad easily took out the land speeder. Over on this side, so the Tau have done an excellent job in this phase of clearing their lines, but the good news ended there. Despite the Pathfinders managing to land 5 marker lights on the Stern Guard, all of the shots from this squad and the Devilfish, they were saved, or they failed to wound. It really was a very poor performance from the Tau. And another poor performance by the XV8 suit. Managed to hit the Ironclad with its fusion blaster, but it rolled a 12. It re-rolled using the tank hunters granted by the pure-tide engram neurochip and got a 13, so it only managed to glance the Ironclad, and that puts this Devilfish and the commander in a lot of danger. We may well see him jetpacking away in the assault phase. The bad news continued as the Barracuda came in hot on the Storm Raven, managed a single glancing hit with its iron cannon that was not jinked, and then it got another glancing hit with its missile pod, but unfortunately this one was jinked. So the Storm Raven remains airborne. This side of the table was very poor shooting from the Tau this turn, but at least the land speeders are gone. Let's see where the commander goes off to in Tau assault phase, turn 4. End of Tau assault phase, turn 4, and as expected, the commander and his XV8 suit and their one surviving shield drone. They have moved back 7 inches. But that has left the Ironclad dominating the centre of the field and dropped this Devilfish into deep, deep trouble. The Tau are still leading comfortably, but the Ravens, they have a good opportunity here going into Raven Guard, turn 4. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 4, and realising they are the only forces left, the Raven Guard First Company have sprung into action. The Stern Guard, they are advancing on this Fire Warrior team in the gantry to drive them back with a hail of their special issue ammunition, and the Chaplain and his remaining Vanguard veterans, they have leapt from cover. One of them has a power fist, he has his Crozius and perhaps a crack grenade to try and take out this Devilfish and seize this objective. Meanwhile, the Ironclad has stomped through the smoke. He has 2 heavy flamers. These Fire Warriors, they may not be around for very long, and the only other Raven Guard units are the 2 Storm Ravens. This one has jinked previously when it was targeted by the Barracuda, but it's going to add its firepower onto the Battlesuit Commander. This Storm Raven, on the other hand, has not jinked, and he has a great line of sight on the Tau Battlesuits. Could this turn see the Ravens tearing the heart out of the centre of the Tau position? We shall see going into Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 4. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 4, and if the Ironclad hoped to use its claws on the Fire Warrior team, it should have been less exuberant with its heavy flamers. All 6 were incinerated in a huge burst of flame, and there are no Fire Warriors left on this gantry either. All 7 were gunned down by a thunderous volley from the advancing Stern Guard. The Chaplain managed to hit the Devilfish with a thrown crack grenade, but did no damage. And the Storm Ravens, they were quite disappointing. Although this Storm Raven managed to hit with a snapshot from its las cannon, rolled a 1 to wound, and this Storm Raven hit with all of its weaponry, but due to cover saves and bad to wound rolls, only the last crisis suit went down. The Commander and his 1 shield drone are left. He has held morale this time. But the Raven Guard First Company have struck with some force in the centre. If the Chaplain and his Vanguard can take out this Devilfish, then the Ravens will consider this to be a very good turn. Let's see Raven Guard Assault Phase, turn 4. End of Raven Guard Assault Phase, turn 4, and the Vanguard have achieved their mission. The Marines with Lightning Claws could not scratch the Tau vehicle's armour, but the Chaplain with his Crozius and the Vanguard Sergeant with his Power Fist, they easily did enough. In fact, the Sergeant alone, swinging last, managed to make the tank explode. So the Raven Guard are back in possession of 1 objective. The Tau are still in the ascendancy, but this turn has been devastating for them. Let's see what they can do in Tau Empire, turn 5. End of Tau movement phase, turn 5, and the Commander has realised he has spent so much time kitting out his suit with all sorts of gadgets, he has neglected to actually bring a gun. So he has joined Darkstrider and his Fire Warriors to give them the benefit of all his gadgets and gizmos. But they cannot hurt the Ironclad, which is stomping towards them. They're going to have to see if they can target some of the Ravens in the centre, and the 2 Hammerheads. They have been ordered, in the strictest terms, to take out the Ironclad before it can stomp its way to this objective and unleash its heavy flamers. This tank has had to move over to draw line of sight, but ion cannons, they are not the ideal anti-dreadnought weapon. We shall just have to see how they get on. The Pathfinders, they may well add their marker lights onto the Ironclad to make sure the Hammerheads get as many hits as possible. Meanwhile, the Tau have virtually nothing left in this sector. The lone Tetra, it's moving. It has a twin-link pulse rifle. It may as well try to take some shots at the Vanguard and maybe put a marker light on just in case a few of Darkstrider's Fire Warriors can see the elite Raven Guard. And the Barracuda has had to pull the tightest turn it possibly can. It is weaving its way between the 2 Storm Ravens. It can't get its ion cannon into arc, but it does have a missile pod to try and target this Storm Raven. Probably won't have much effect, can't destroy it, but it's desperate stuff towards the end of this battle. Let's see how the Tau get on in Tau shooting phase, turn 5. End of Tau shooting phase, turn 5, and all of the commanders' equipment certainly did improve Dark Strider squad's accuracy, but the power armour of the Vanguard and their chaplain proved resistant. Only one Vanguard went down and the chaplain was wounded by the volley, but they are standing firm. The Barracuda managed 2 hits on the Storm Raven with its missile pods. The Storm Raven didn't even bother to jink and was rewarded as both missiles impacted harmlessly against its formidable armour. The last Tetra fired on the Vanguard with no effect, and it fell to the Hammerheads to take out the Ironclad, but unfortunately, despite one Hammerhead benefiting from 4 Markalite hits from the Pathfinders, it only managed a single glancing hit, and the other Hammerhead had no effect at all. So the Ironclad's advance continues, and Dark Strider may perhaps be worried that the mighty Raven Guard War Machine is going to drive him from the objective. Can the Ravens snatch victory? It will require a very good Raven Guard turn 5. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 5, and they find themselves in a tricky situation. They know what they want to achieve. They want to hold this objective, drive the Tau from this objective, and maybe even get a Storm Raven into a line breaker position whilst denying that to the Tau. This Tetra has to go. So the Ravens, they are moving out. The Ironclad has stomped forward 6 inches. He is going to clear the Tau away with his heavy flamer and hopefully follow that up with a charge. He is going to get supporting fire from this Storm Raven, which has moved over this objective, and this Storm Raven, which has just shifted over slightly to get a good line of sight, and if the game goes on, be able to nip in and steal line breaker. The Stern Guard, they have all moved onto this objective as well. They are going to use their 30-inch Kraken bolts to give fire onto Dark Strider, the commander, and the strike team as well. Meanwhile, the chaplain and the Vanguard have decided that this Tetra must go. They have moved back and they are going to try to wreck it in an assault. So, the Raven Guard, they have a lot of possibilities here. Let's see how they get on going into a Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 5. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 5, and the Ironclad Dreadnought washed its heavy flamers over the nearest members of the strike team, taking out 3 Fire Warriors and their last gun drone. The Stern Guard then opened fire with their Kraken bolts from extreme range. They only managed to take out 1 more Fire Warrior. This Storm Raven unloaded its las cannon and its multi-melter, but it took both of those weapons to take out the commander's last shield drone, and this Storm Raven only managed to take out 1 more Fire Warrior, and they have passed morale. All of the Fire Warriors are now more than 3 inches away from this objective, but it is the commander himself who is still in control for the Tau. Meanwhile, all the way back at the rear of the Raven Guard position, the chaplain lobbed a crack grenade at the Tetra but had no effect. But they're going to try and finish it off in an assault. Raven Guard assault phase, turn 5. End of Raven Guard assault phase, turn 5, and the Vanguard, led by the chaplain, easily made it into the Tetra. They tore it to pieces. That is a relief. The Tetras are very irritating to have buzzing around. But the Ironclad, with a roll of a 7, just failed its charge. So the Tau remain in control of this objective. That is very disappointing for the Ravens. Still, if the game goes on, it could still be anybody's. We're going to roll and we will be right back. And with the roll of a 1, this game has ended. Both of these forces have obviously decided that the key to their strategy is mobility. They do not want to get bogged down in protracted fights, so they are both withdrawing, and the final score is 3 points to the Tau for holding this objective, and they also got First Blood and Slay the Warlord. So they have 5. The Ravens, They get 3 points for holding this objective. But they failed to get first blood, they failed to get Slay the Warlord. Neither side has line breakers, so the final score is 5 points to the Tau Empire and 3 to the Raven Guard. The Tau are victorious. This battle ended up being a lot closer than we expected when the first wave of Raven Guard bikers were blown to bits in short order by the formidable Tau firepower. We thought this game was going to be very one-sided, but the arrival of the Storm Ravens carrying the first company really turned the tide, especially given the Tau's apparent inability to hit the Flyers with marker lights or any other weapon. This has been a great game. We think these two armies are always fun when they are matched up against each other. We enjoy these battles immensely. We hope you do too. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 battle reports as we can. See ya!